Belt, and I live in Osaka, Japan.
Yeah, Osaka!
I've been living here for about 8 years. In Osaka 5 years, but then I lived in Kyoto for about 2-3 years as well for my graduate school program. And yeah, I was locked out of Japan for 5 months starting in March, and I just got back in the middle of August.
Okay, so you couldn't come back to Japan?
Yeah. So I left on a trip with my roommate to South Africa, and we made sure that everything was okay. We were looking at all the news and everything leading up to it. We were trying to be safe. We thought everything was going to be okay. And then when I was in South Africa, they decided to shut down. So I decided to go back to the US, thinking that I could go back to Japan from there. But then once I got back to the US and I was under my 2-week quarantine there, Japan shut their borders with the United States, foreigners coming from the United States. And they didn't open the borders back up until August 5th was the date that they, and that was only for foreigners who had residency status here and who left before the ban of their country.
Okay, I see. So what happened? I mean, like you were living in Osaka, so you had an apartment, I guess, a job. So
yep, I work here in Japan. I've been working for almost 6 years here, and I have an apartment. I pay taxes, all of that good stuff, but I still was not able to return to Japan because of the entry ban. Not just for tourists, it was for foreigners living here as well. And I think that the number of people was actually over 100,000 foreigners were trapped abroad during this time. And then with the new re-entry procedures as of August 5th, there's new ones as of September 1st, by the way. But when I came back in, it was August 5th. Those procedures, there were 80,000 people who were eligible to come back to Japan at that point. But there was a lot of hoops that you had to jump through. You needed to go to the embassy in your area, embassy or consulate, the Japanese embassy or consulate, and get a special permission letter to come back. And then you had to get a PCR test. Well, not just a PCR, you had to get a coronavirus test, one that was specified in a special format that the Japanese government gave you. And Japanese nationals don't have to do this, by the way. Only foreigners coming back into the country have to do a PCR test. Or PCR. I keep on saying PCR, but it's a list. It could be PCR, it could be an antigen test. There's like 3 different types of tests that you can take in order to get back.
Well, what happened to you? Because you're working for a Japanese company at that time, so how was your Japanese employer dealing with the situation? So, because you couldn't come back to Japan to work, so how does it work for your company?
So my company was very gracious, was very generous, and I was working from the United States the entire time. I mean, my job I do work with the United States, like quite a lot in my job position, but they were very generous. They let me work from my home, my jika, back in the United States for 5 months. So
I see.
Typically a Japanese company probably would not do that.
Yeah, but your company is quite young and or not so traditional, or is it more?
I mean, it is traditional, but it's not like corporate traditional. Like it's a family-owned business, and the CEO of the company is very forward thinking. So it's one of the reasons why and obviously because of Japanese laws and stuff, they can't just cut you. Like they can't just
because
fire
you had
you,
a
basically.
full-time job.
Yeah, I'm a seishain at my company. I'm not a kiyaku shain at all. So it's going to be hard for them to cut me as well. But even then, they were very generous. Like they weren't like, we're going to even consider firing you or anything like that. They were very, very nice about that.
We had a shutdown in Osaka as well. And I guess in Osaka as well, people, companies become more open to working from home because it's necessary. So also you were telling, because since you're like working for a Japanese company, but your clients are in the US, it was beneficial because you didn't have to like worry about time difference talking to your clients.
Exactly. So my job I could do in the actual time zone that I mean, I guess it was intended to be, but yeah, I kind of act as a liaison between like the US branch and Japan office, and I wear a lot of hats because in a Japanese company, I mean, you guys must all know that you wear a lot of hats. You do what you're not necessarily what you've come into the company for. You do like what the company wants you to do. So that is, I wear a lot of hats, you would say in English.
But you still had your apartment in Japan, right?
Yes.
But you were because I guess you can just keep paying rent and then it shouldn't be an issue. But sometimes you read about people, and if they pay their money cash to the landlord, then they couldn't do that. And but if you have like an automatic payment, you just had to keep paying your rent, but you couldn't be in Japan. Right?
Yeah. So I had
What kind of like costs do you have, like which just like kept running while you couldn't enter?
Rent and utilities, even though we didn't use utilities like at all. I mean, the utility bill wasn't that much or anything, but rent was the big expense. And also I did get my salary every single month, so I was properly paying Japanese taxes, which is one of the arguments that a lot of the foreigners who were trapped abroad were saying, like, why are we who contribute to the Japanese economy as well, why are we being blocked from coming back? I'm willing to go through the entire PCR test, anything that they want me to do, like I was willing to do to come back. Like I want to be safe. We're in a pandemic right now. I want to be safe, but at the same time, this is my home right now. I'm an American, yes, but this is my home.
You had like all your friends here, and you had your company here.
Exactly.
But so like what happened? So you moved back to your parents, like to the US, right? In that time, was it like something good about pandemic, like having more time with your family, or?
Yeah, so it was great. Like I've been living in Japan for 8 years now, so I haven't been able to communicate with my parents that much. I mean, at a Japanese company, you only get a certain amount of time off each year. And I changed companies a bunch of times because I was still trying to find what the best fit for me was. So obviously you restart every single time when that happened. So I wasn't able to go back to the US and visit my parents that much. They would come to Japan like about once a year, and I would try to go to the US about once a year. But now with my job now, they allow me for business trips and stuff to go back to the US a couple times a year, so my parents come to meet me and stuff. But I haven't been back in the US for this long since university, since college. Like I have been back for maybe max 2 weeks.
2 weeks,
I would say, at a time since I've moved here.
And then Corona came, and how long do you like spend time with your family?
I was back at home for 5 months.
Oh, okay.
Which is the longest time that I've been back. Like college, I think was 2 months.
Okay.
I would come back for summer break.
Yeah.
But yeah.
How does it help your relationship with your parents?
Yeah, my parents, I really was able to I was really able to talk to them like one-on-one. They got to see me finally as an adult, because when I left to leave to Japan, I was only 21 years old. So they didn't see me as an adult. I'd graduated from college, but they didn't see me as like the shakaijin, like the actual working person, like having a job. Like they finally realized that yes, I am fluent in Japanese. I prefer speaking English right now, but I am fluent in Japanese. And they really saw me as an adult for the first, no, I don't want to say for the first time, but they finally were able to see me in person doing my job as an adult. And there was a mutual respect that was finally formed between the three of us. I should say an adult relationship with my parents that I finally wanted for a really long time. I finally was able to get.
Corona helped you to become like closer with your family.
Yeah.
and they saw you as like someone who's actually working and contributing to like the society. That's like nice. But also, what changed during the pandemic for you? You mentioned like 3 points.
Yeah. So one of them was my online community. Like I became really close with some people on Instagram. That entire community was just so encouraging. Like they were all very sympathetic, like, oh man, like why can't you get back to Japan? Like this is ridiculous, like you lived there. It was just all supportive, like we were all sharing information. They were sharing the stuff that I was sharing about, hey, like I'm stuck over here, like, and Japanese people really, even now when I'm back, when I tell people I was gone for 5 months and I couldn't come back in because of Japan, they were like, what? Like, why? And I had to explain to them all of these issues, so normal Japanese people don't understand that, but the foreigner community here was really vocal, was really helping each other out. So on Instagram, more specifically, there's this community that I got really close to, and just my love for Japan was like reignited again, basically. I know there are a lot of foreigners who are kind of jaded by this whole experience, that a lot of people have actually left Japan because of this.
Yeah. Especially like business people. Like when they run companies, and because I'm from Germany, I know people who have business together with the Europe, and they see that they were not treated as Japanese, and they couldn't so they lost a lot of money, lost a lot of business. So they think long term it's better to like go to Japan to business trips, but don't put like the main center of their work to Japan, because sometimes politics can change. It's nice, but I feel like many Japanese, when they're interested in foreigners, they were very supportive as well. And okay, well, what's the third part?
I found out how strong I actually am. Like, as a foreigner moving to Japan, you have to be strong, like in it, like just because of that. But on top of it, when you're pulled again from your everyday life here, I've built my life here for 8 years now. My entire adult life is here, basically. And when you're ripped from that, it's difficult to readjust back home. Like, I was a 30-year-old living at home with my parents for 5 months. Like, in the United States, that's quite rare for that. And like, you're really seen as, oh, you're good for nothing, like type of thing. So that's a what's the word for it? That's the stereotype, but at the same time,
you were still like working, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still working. It's a stereotype, but it's still in the back of my head, like, oh man, like I'm stuck at home with my parents. I have to follow my parents' rules and stuff. Like, I built my entire life here, and I'm still having to go.
So you're
like,
kind of like, you miss Japan a lot.
I missed my freedom. Like, it would be one thing if I was moving back to the United States and I was getting my own apartment. I was building an entire new life there, but it was temporary. It was completely temporary. Like, I didn't know when I was going to go back. They kept on extending it and extending it. There was no news, nothing about being able to come back for months and months. There was speculation like, oh, they're finally going to open the border. They're thinking about it. And I'm like, just do something about it. But I know that it wasn't one of their priorities, because they were trying to contain the pandemic here, which, fair enough. I totally get that. But fun fact, Japan is the only, I think, G7 or G8 nation that didn't allow foreign residents who live and work there back into the country. And even permanent residents were having trouble coming back into the country.
So like the thing about travelers, everyone understands. But since you had your apartment in Japan and you work in Japan, that's like, there are like many people, and some people, they even lost their jobs. So
I've heard of people like losing their jobs, like because they were stuck overseas, and they just, I mean, they were probably contract workers. Like, I don't know a lot of those situations, but people lost their jobs, they couldn't come back. And some people even had to take risks for family, like because of their job. Like, I'm going overseas anyway. I'm risking my job and not being able to come back to Japan just because I need to go back to my family because there was a death, there was something. like that happened. And even when Japan said there was humanitarian reasons that you could come back, there was still so many hurdles that you had to jump through, so much paperwork, so much stuff that you had to prove that it was actually humanitarian to come back. And that makes us feel like second-class citizens, like basically here. And I know I'm never going to become a Japanese citizen like whatsoever, but I can't if unless I give up my American citizenship. But at the same time, foreigners help the Japanese economy. We're about 2% of the entire population. And I think that Japan's going to be seeing the effects of all of that coming up, especially with the Olympics. Apparently, my roommate and I were talking, there's like a mass exodus of foreigners especially from Tokyo, just leaving Japan because they're like, there's no life for me here anymore. I don't want to be stuck in Japan and I can't see my parents and stuff. So they decide to pack up and just leave Japan, which can totally cuts all of like the work that Japan had been doing to try to build highly skilled workers like here to Japan and all of that. So
but you really like Japan and you like working here. So,
yeah, like I wanted to come back, but there's still going to be something in the back of my head this entire time coming up, like what's going to happen if something like this comes again? Is Japan going to still, like even if I get married to a Japanese person, am I going to be barred from coming back into Japan? Like if I have children who's like half Japanese, half American, they'll be able to come back. I won't. Like I'm going to be separated like from my family. And that's horrible to think about. And I'm sure that so many foreigners right now are weighing those options business-wise as well as personal for building their life here, which is going backwards from what Japan actually wants to do.
But now you're back, like what do you really like about Osaka being back? What did you like really miss?
I really miss just like, being around here, like talking. I don't know, like the first thing that I realized when I stepped off the plane was just like a sigh of relief, like I'm back. My life is here. Like that's the only way that I can describe it. I miss my life here. It's so much healthier here than in the US. I'm not driving everywhere. Like I'm walking everywhere. I can eat less portions. Like there's less pressure to eat a ton of stuff. It's just healthier lifestyle in general, for me at least. Everybody has different preferences and stuff.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you like about living in Japan or living in Osaka? Please let us know.
Yeah, I would love to know.
You're also running a small YouTube channel.
Yes.
You have like an Instagram account. So if you want to watch some of her videos, also I will link a video to her video, so please check it out.
Thanks
for watching. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.